First thing I did, I started with a skull. I got this pattern online somewhere. I googled skull crochet pattern and I found a free pattern on this. So just Google it and you'll be able to find this, or you can use any kind of motif you want. Then I found a video on YouTube. It was very informative. It helped me square this off, so to speak. So then all I did was I did like a granny stitch. It showed me how to do a granny stitch around this to kind of square it. So I just made the stitches even on each side and on the bottom as same as the top. See, I did 2 in the corner, then I did 2, then I did 2 for a corner, and then I did like 6 on the side, and then I did the same as I did on the top, on the bottom, and then I did another 6 on the side with the 2 with the corner. So and that just kind of squared it up for me. And then all I did was a granny stitch around. The next step in this pattern is after you get it squared up, I continued with the granny stitch with 2 different colors actually. I started with black and then I did 2 rows of granny stitches. And then I started with the pink. And that's just a granny stitch, but I did it in the space here. Okay, and then after I did a row of those, I switched back to the black. Now this I did like a granny stitch, the same, just like a granny stitch, but I did it like a drop stitch and I came down to the black. Does that make sense? See how I did that? I went over the chain space and pulled up the bottom, the next stitch from below and pulled it up, and I did that across so it covers up the chain space of each one of those pink granny stitches, and I just did that evenly around. Okay, the third step, after you have your rows of 2 rows of black, okay, the first row, this one, then there, this is the second row of black, then we switched to the pink, did a row of pink in the granny, but we did that over the black. Then we switched back to black, and we still continued to do the granny, but that's when we did the drop. We pulled over the chain, over the pink chain, we dropped it down to the black and pulled the black stitch up. Make sense? Then we switched back to pink. Then we continued to do a granny, same granny stitch, but we pulled the pink to the pink. We did that same dropping thing right down to the pink and pulled the pink up to the next row, kind of like so that it would do that. So we're basically, this is how it's going. So you're crocheting over that, try to get you so I can show you this. You're crocheting over that chain and pulling the pink stitch to the pink stitch above. Then once you do that around, then you're going to start an interlocking process. I guess that's how you would consider this part right here. It's kind of like a front post, back post kind of stitch. I continue with the granny stitch, of course. Okay, it's the same thing. But I did on this row of black, I did the granny over the chain, the black chain, and then in the back I did over this black chain, and then I just went back and forth like that. And then when I got to the corner, I did the 2 in the corner like you do a normal granny, and then I continued the same thing. See? And it starts to create this design. That's the thing about the interlocking. That's why I like it, because it creates this little design for you, and all you're doing is you're kind of doing a granny stitch. So how easy is this? I'm just showing you how to put this thing together, how I did it. So, and basically that's it for right now. And then we'll start your zigzag interlocking. So once you get around to done with that portion, you're going to start your interlocking. So go and watch the process on how to do interlocking crochet, and you'll learn how to do this zigzag design. That's why I like it, because this is what happens, and it starts to do this. And then I started my zigzag. These are just granny stitches, so don't think that it's difficult, because it's really not. It's just like a granny stitch, but you're just doing it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I did like 4 up, and then I did 4 down, and I did 4 up, 4 down. It's just back, and it's just in the front with one color and the back with another color, and then you're just working with 2 different colors. You drop it at the end and start up your new color to go the opposite direction. So you're just going to go up to the top of the square. See, you stop here because we're making this in panels, like long panels. So here's the side of it. I'm trying to get it all in the video. So you don't do up here around this, because this, we're going to do something different up here. And you just go to the bottom, So you do your zigzag. This is I think she calls it the zigzag interlocking crochet design, and that's how I did this. And then when I got so far, I wanted to change color, so I worked with 2 colors here. So I'm working with the purple and the blue on this one here, like for 2 stitches to kind of give it a gradient, kind of blend. And then I started up with, and then I continued with my zigzag. And that's it. And then I'll show you how to join the squares when we get to that thing. I wanted to show you how I was doing the zigzag. See, I was doing it in the front and then in the back, but just to give you an idea of what I'm doing. See, I'm working with black and yellow at this point. So on this one, I need a zigzag. I'm going up with my zigzag. So we're going to go in the front, and we just do the granny stitch, and you go under this loop in the front. And I do 2 double crochets. This is just to give you an idea. Still go look on the videos on interlocking crochet and watch that, and you'll learn exactly how to do this. And then on the back, to keep it going, because it's going to be exactly the same on the back, so we want to go here on the yellow. So then you chain 2, do double crochet, but in the back. And then when you do one color, you stop on the end, and you start up on the other end with the other color, doing the exact same thing. And then you just flip it over and do the same coming back, but in the opposite direction. Very easy. So in this section, I'm going to show you how to join the squares together, because you're going to make as many number that you need for your blanket, squares like this. Okay, and then you're going to do your zigzag, and you're going to attach them when you get to the part where you need to place it. So you need to have your zigzag doing the exact same number of stitches that you have down. So just make sure you have the same amount. But it really isn't going to matter, because we're going to be able to fix anything odd when we go around the top with a single crochet, because it'll also join it together with a single crochet around the edge. But granted, these are just made in panels, so this is how we're going to join it up. So you just line it up. Okay, so in this part, you're going to cut off your tails, like very long tails. Once you finish off your end, you're going to join it with your main color. Like in this case, it's the black that I ended with, and it's the black I ended with on this color, since it's the same. So we're just going to join it and make a blanket stitch all the way up in the chain stitch between these 2. So everybody knows how to do that. You just kind of weave it in and out. I know you could probably do like a slip stitch or whatever, but this is how I did it, and it didn't leave like that line. I don't like to see join lines. I'm a little particular on some things, depending on what it is. But in this case, we're going to just do that. Do like a blanket stitch all the way up with that color. So I've done my blanket stitch with this base color all the way up. See? I just joined them together. There's no seam line or anything like that. See? You probably can't see it because it's black. So we're going to do that on this side, and then we're going to stop at the top of the work because we're going to do the same thing on the bottom, on the other side. But I do one side and then I do the other side. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to pick up our other color, other tail of the other color, and we are going to basically join these, but you got to do it right though or it won't turn out. Let's see, that's going to go here, 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 here. Okay. So now with this one, I'm going to join it here. We're just going to sew right across and pull the two colors together. We're going to pull the two colors together. See what I'm doing here? I know I've screwed this up a couple times, so and I had to undo it, and that's not fun. It's not a fun task, undoing when you sew it together. See, so when it creates the tie-in, and you don't have that seam line going up. I'm going through the loop on this top granny square into this one here, from that one, going across this black line. Okay, so we pulled that together like that. Now you're going to go underneath, but sew through the chain because you don't want to see that loose thread floating through there on the other side. Just kind of weave it through till you get to the other side like that. See how I'm joining that? So now we're going to join this one to this one. So we're going to just sew right across here, start at this one. We're going to pull that over. And we're going to go to this chain here and go back over. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're not going to notice it once it's all pulled together. You won't really see it because it'll all blend really well. See how we're doing that? And then you just kind of even it out as you go, or the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's not a science to this, you just do it. See, so there's your blended kind of stitch. And it takes away that line, and it looks like you just crocheted right over to the other. I'm sure you could probably do it with a crochet hook. However, you would still have to sew underneath here and join these two like with a slip stitch. Does that make sense? You could do that. But this was just easier, so I just did that. I just did this. So then you're going to sew through this yellow chain underneath this black over to this side and do that again. Tail is really long, so it's taking longer to pull it through. I do this because I want the same piece of yarn to be on both sides. Does that make sense? Because we're going to go do the same thing on the opposite side. So it's going to be together. You're doing like 4 blanket stitches across this seams, and then you're going to single crochet across the top, and it's going to even make it even stronger together. So that's all we're doing, is we're just tying those in, weaving underneath, and tying the two yellow pieces together. Do that all the way up to the top, flip it over, do the same thing starting with the black on the other side, and then start with your other color, and then tie it off. Once I completed the panels, I did a single crochet all the way around, and then I did the bean stitch. If you don't know how to do that, look that up. It's really easy, very simple to do. I did that bean stitch all the way around about 4 times around each panel, and then I joined them together with that blanket stitch. Once up this side, and I flipped it over and did it again on the other side. So you do like 4 rows of the bean stitch all the way around each panel, and then do the blanket stitch to fuse them together. And then once I did all that with all the panels, each side I did the bean stitch going down this side about 3 times, 3 rows of the bean stitch, and then I did the bean stitch here, and I just variegated the colors. You don't have to do that, but I did that because that's just the way it turned out. So I went up so far, and then I started the next color, and then I came back. But when I did this bean stitch, I didn't do it like you do the bean stitch. I did it right in between the stitches. You can see that. See, I did it between the stitches. The same stitch, but I did it between the stitch. See that? So that it creates that look. And then I just went back and forth with the black and then the color. And then once I was done with that, I got this far, I did 3 more rows of bean stitch here, and then once I did that on both sides of the blanket, then I did 2 rows of bean stitch all the way around the entire blanket. See? So that the only corners is right here. So I went up to here and I did the bean stitch up and down, and then I went across and did it 3 rows all the way over to here. So I went this way. This was the last step, and then very end I did 2 rows around the entire blanket. I hope that makes sense. And that was basically it, and then it was all done. This was a long project. Well, I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, message me. But it turned out really good for not having a pattern and just kind of winging it. I kind of enjoyed it. So hope that helped someone.